been working on it. Give me a moment. Been working on it all week. We headed to Kentucky on Wednesday morning. And I was playing through my playlist, and that song we just played up here played. And I know I'd heard it before, but I'd never heard it before. And I'm going to go through it. I'm going to walk through it because a lot of times, you know, we've been given vision. You can see me, and I can see you, right? When you go somewhere, do you see your surroundings? Do you look at your surroundings? Do you view the people that are around you? Because we have a gift, as Rick just said, as Gail just said, as Debbie said, there's a gift inside of all of us with purpose. We have to see where we're at. We have to see our surroundings. Deb and I yesterday had, before we left Kentucky, lunch with Pastor Jim and Elizabeth at Cracker Barrel. And I'm sitting there, and I like to sit in a position where I can see the room. That's part of the issue. I like to be able to see where I'm at, who's around me, I have people to my back. But I was sitting in a position, and I just happened to, we're talking to Pastor Jim and Elizabeth, and I'm able to see two of them. And there was a older couple who stepped out to go up, and they were talking to somebody. I didn't know who they were talking to, and they stepped away. And the older gentleman that was there, all of a sudden after they left, he started talking. He's by himself. But he was talking. And I just sort of watched him for a moment, and all of a sudden the Lord says, the Lord told me, he says, buy his lunch. I don't know who he was. Never met him, never will meet him. But it was something, and so I wasn't going to say anything. Usually when I do that, we just sort of leave and that's it. And yesterday Elizabeth said, did you tell him that you bought his lunch? So he knows. So Debbie back in, she told him, and his exact words, oh, bless you, thank you very much, or something along that. He was a believer. He had prayed before he met. But the thing is that I don't care if he's a believer or not. We have to open our eyes and see the world in which we live. What's going to change you and me individually, and it has to start with you and us, you and me individually first. We have to start seeing the opportunities that God has given us, a lost and dying world. Now, evidently that gentleman was lonely. Evidently that gentleman was talking to God or somebody, I don't know. But we helped change his life just a little bit that day. We helped encourage him in his walk or his search for God, just by an act of kindness. I've been living that song since Wednesday. Matter of fact, I stop in my, what are they called? What are you putting in your ear? What are they, earpods, iPods, AirPods? I always get it wrong, so I put one in and I listen to it, and as I'm preparing for today, my heart, I wanted to hear that song over and over and over because it said so much. I said last week during the offering teaching that I did for Debbie, I said we are in a season of opportunity. And that's what I've titled this message, and probably a series. We have a season of opportunity upon us right now. What Gail has done today has opened up the door for all of us to take up and say, you know what, I'm leaving it there. I remember when I first got saved, probably Karen remembers this, and some of us that were at First Assembly, every service, the altar was open. Every service you had an opportunity to go for God and walk away. But a lot of times we go to the altar. You went to the tree today. What you ever put up there, I don't know. Only you and God knows. The thing is you still have to either walk away and leave it or go with you. But if you put it on the tree, that brokenness, that thing that's wrong, if you walk away and say, I'm done with it, it's God's, and leave it alone, He'll take care of it. But what stops the blessing? What? Huh? You know what? There we go. What stops the blessing, but what stops the healing, what stops all the miracles of God at work in our life is we pick up the problem and take it with us. We have to hear the stories and listen to the stories, not only in the Word of God that we can go to every day, but sometimes I think about the Word and I think some of us just take it as a historical piece of work, not living truth. When we take it as a historical piece of work, we're not going to gain anything from that. We have to apply it to our lives. We have to look at every scripture and say, that's for me. And it doesn't matter what it's talking about. That's for me. And I can apply that to my life. You know, turn me right now to Luke chapter 2. Normally we preach something about the birth of Christ on this week, but I've got this, but I only have it for one reason. It's not to preach the birth of Christ. It's actually just to pick up where the season of opportunity was born for all of us. And that was the day in the manger. Luke chapter 2, verses 8 through 14 says this: That night there were shepherds staying in the fields nearby, guarding their flocks of sheep. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared among them. Now think about that. Just stop and really put yourself there. You're out there and you're minding your own business. But you're looking at the stars. You're out there, what do? You're not counting the sheep at night. You're just out there, you're guarding your sheep, but you're looking at the stars. You're looking at God's creation. We were coming home yesterday, and to my left, I couldn't see it really good because I had to turn around like this, and I'm driving, so it's not a good thing to do on I-65. But there was such a beautiful sunset. God's glory all around us, all around us. And that's what we should see now. But they said, and suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared to them. Think about it. The angel just all of a sudden was boom right there. Guess what, guys? There's angels of the Lord in this building today. Why? Because you're here. We don't necessarily see them. Now, I've seen angels. I've seen my angel. Before I even knew God, I saw my angel. Why? Because they're there for us. They were assigned to me. And he goes on to say this, and the radiance of the Lord's glory surrounded them. They were terrified. But the angel reassured them, saying, don't be afraid. When the miraculous of God happens in our lives or around us, we're not to be in fear. We're to rejoice. We're to shout the glory of God. He goes on to say this, and he said, I bring good news that will bring great joy to all people. Now, the angel went to them shepherds out there by themselves in a field. He says, I'm bringing you good news for everybody. That angel was talking about you and me. We weren't here then. We weren't even thought of then. But the thing is the angel said it's for all people. You know, Jesus, at that birthing time, brought a season of opportunity to all of us for the rest of our lives. He brought a season of opportunity. Many times songs will preach a sermon to us, and the thing is we don't hear the words. It's just music. It's just lyrics. But when we hear the words to the song, we apply them to our lives, it will change. It's songs, all worship songs, I believe, are written by the hand of God. There's a whole lot of secular songs out there that I can name you that were written by the hand of God. There's an old song from the 70s by Uriah Heep, a rock and roll group. I mean, hardcore rock and roll. I just lost it. Easy Living. You can't listen to that song and not see a person that just got saved, that just all of a sudden realized that God has been right beside them all along, and all of a sudden they're encompassed by the power of God, and they have nothing else to do but write that song. In the last song we just heard by Zach Williams, it says this, oh, I have days I lose the fight. Is that you and me? We're honest. We're faith people, but we have to be honest, too, about where we're at in our faith. We have to be honest that when a struggle comes upon us, that sometimes we lose. But guess what? We never lose. Because if we get our faith right, God comes in and redeems that time back for us. He says, I try my best, but do not get it right. Now listen to this. I talk a talk that I don't walk. Think about that. We're faith people. We preach faith, we teach faith, we talk faith, and it's easy to do that in here. Why? Because we've got someone else right beside us that's teaching, saying the same thing. But what do we do when we're out there? Do we keep the same confession? Do we talk the talk but not walk the walk? Or do we walk what we say? That's the hardest challenge that all of us have as we grow in this faith, this work of God that's going on is walking the talk that we say. Rob Westbrook is an example, always to me. That's not what I believe when they tried to tell him the negative reports. 3 years ago now? He said, that's not what I believe. And he stayed the course. Why? Because he was walking the talk. He just didn't say it anymore. He's going to walk it. He's going to say, no, that's not what I believe. I believe God's word is true. I believe that no matter what comes at me, the enemy can't win. He can't win. It says, I missed the moments right before my eyes. Now, listen to this. Somebody with a hurt that I could have helped. Seeing what you're around. When you go out today, how many are going out to lunch today? You all go out to lunch, you go home, you go to work tomorrow. What's around you? When you go to work tomorrow, you've been with the same people all the time. Maybe you got the same, like in Vince and Sheila's case, a lot of times those people are the same repeat people they see as patients every week, every couple of times a week. They know them personally. Or you go to work but the thing is, beloved, is we have to see the area that we're in different than ever before. We have to look and see the opportunity that God's laying before us. He says, somebody with a hand that I could have held. A lot of times it's just, we talk about sowing seed, and Debbie does such a great job teaching on tithes and offerings. Now, tithes is a responsibility that you have to God. The offerings are something else. The seed sowing is something else. And it's not always here that you have to sow the seed. We sowed seed yesterday in a restaurant for an old man we never will meet again, probably till we get to heaven. We had an opportunity years ago. We were at back when Golden Corral was open. And happened to notice a gentleman in front of us, a couple behind us, I think they were, and he had a Korean War veteran hat on. Well, as much as I can, especially when God speaks, I'll pay for lunches for people that are veterans, police officers, and firemen, all that kind of stuff. And I learned that from the people that lead me, my leaders, my pastors. So as I got up to the cashier, I said, I want to pay for theirs. Don't say nothing to them. We walked on, went this way. I think they went that way. And I didn't think any more of it. It was seed being sown. The next day or two, Debbie's at work as a nurse, and this couple comes in, and she's serving them as a nurse, and they go, we know you from somewhere. And they realized it was us that had paid for their meal that day, and they were blessed by that. That was seed sown. So we've got Ashley. Those cards will be ready Monday. I got to pick them. They're already ready. I was out of town. Get them Monday. Next week I'm going to hand out to you some cards that Ashley designed. It's simply a card that talks about our church. It doesn't have any of our names on it. It's just about the church, how to get a hold of us in all the areas. And it's what you do is you go through somewhere and you buy somebody's meal and you leave the card and say, give this to them when they want their bill. That happened to Pastor Jim's church. He was telling us about it last week. Said that there was a couple that did that for them. And like a couple of days later, people sent, they didn't have nothing. They didn't have the name of the people that did it or nothing, but they had that card. They sent a thank you card to the church for such gracious people that were in their church. It's a way to get the knowledge that God's at work in people's lives. Seeing where you're at. He says, somebody with a hand I could have held when I just can't see past myself. Oh, Lord, help me be. And then he goes into these lyrics. And I'm going to get out of the song, but I need to get through the song to get to where I'm going. It says, a little more like mercy, a little more like grace, a little more like kindness, goodness, love, and faith, a little more like patience, a little more like peace, a little more like Jesus, and a little less of me. If we could walk that walk, to be more like Jesus every day, we're going to see lives changed. We may not see this church filled, but we'll see heaven filled. That's our responsibility, is to see heaven filled. This church will fill up in its own accord. We need more people here. We need more so that Danny's not doing all the work around the place, or Joe's not doing all the work around the place, or Rick, or Vince. The thing is that what we're after is seeing the kingdom of God grow. That's always been our responsibility. He goes on, Matthew chapter 25, verse 31 through 46 says, I'm going to read out the Message. I bet you don't have the Message, do you, Rob? So just put it up there, maybe in the New King James. It'll be close enough. This passage seems like an interesting one to be preaching around Christmas. But this is about the sheep and the goats. Keith Green wrote a song about this. It just always rings in my ears whenever I read this passage. In verse 31 it says, "And when he finally arrives blazing in beauty and all the angels with him, the Son of Man will take his place on his glorious throne. And then all the nations will be arranged before him, and he will sort the people out as much as a shepherd sorts out the sheep from the goats." There's a day coming, and I believe it's rapidly approaching. I believe it's really rapidly approaching, that the nations are going to go before God. And the people are going to stand before God. We're going to stand before God. All of the world's going to stand before God. And he's going to say, the sheep are going to be here, and the goats are over here. He's not going to actually call them that, but that's what they're going to be. He's going to, you stand here, you stand here. He put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left, and the king will say to those on his right, enter, you who bless my Father. Take what's coming to you in the kingdom. It's been ready for you since the world's foundation. Jesus says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Keith Green used to say, now I got him on my head, he says, it took him how many days to complete the earth? How many days? Tell me. 6 days, right? But he's been working on heaven for 2,000 years. Keith Green said, we're like living in a garbage dump compared to what he's got prepared for us. And the beauty of God is all around us, but think what it's going to be like with what he's been working on for 2,000 years. He goes on to say this, and here's why. Verse 35, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was homeless and you gave me room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick when you stopped to visit. And I was in prison and you came to see me. Those are acts of kindness. Rob taught years ago about acts of kindness. Those are acts of covenant. Those are acts of the Father working through us with a vision that he gave to all of us. You know, it's like what that song said. There's days that I lose a fight and I don't do what's right. You know, when I walk away, if I'd have walked away yesterday, I know how I would have felt. If I'd have walked away and God had told me to pay for that lunch and I'd have walked out and said, well, you know, I don't know. I got to have this money for this. We're in Kentucky. I might break down or something. No, I had to do what the Lord told me to do. And when you do those things, beloved, you walk away going, yes, now I'm walking where God told me to walk. I'm doing what he told me to do. And he goes on, and they go on verse 27, and those sheep were going to say, Master, what are you talking about? Because a lot of times we don't see what we're doing as something that the Father would want us to do. Sometimes we think, he goes on to say, when did we see you hungry? When did we feed you? When you were thirsty? When did you give you drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you? And then this is what the king will say. I'm telling you a solemn truth. Whenever you did one of those things to someone overlooked or ignored, you did it to me. You did it to me. And then he turns to the goats. And because you didn't do that, there's a penalty for you. But he told the sheep, he said, enter into your kingdom. Enter into your glory because of what you did for me. You know, church is more than just coming here. I love this place, so please don't take this wrong. I love this place. I love you guys. But it's more than that. It's more than that. I mean, if I couldn't come here and pick on Jeff or Bree or Hank or Rick or pick on anybody. But it's more than that, beloved. We have to be after greater things than we've ever seen before in our lives. We have to be willing to stand every day with Rob Westbrook, with Jeff and Shara. We have to be standing every day with everyone that's on that list that Debbie gives us every week. When we do that, beloved, we're not goats, we're sheep. We're reaching out to those who need our help. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me. You know, there's a lot of people not in physical prison, but they're in prison. There's, Debbie gives me a hard time, there's some kind of, what's it called? Instagram, you know. See, I caught you messing around over here, didn't I? That's all right. I'm just picking on you. Under Instagram, there's Reels. Reels is the name of it, right? So they go in these Reels and they do, they have someone that's actually saying it, but they're actually mimicking the words, you know. And there's one that says, like it's usually a woman that goes, she's talking about, I'm in prison, come be with me for being prison. And the kid in the back, you're not in prison, Mom, you're at home. He says, no, it feels like a prison to me. You know, a lot of times we live in a world that we feel like we're in prison. He says, you came to me and I was in prison, you came to me. Beloved, there's people out there today that are living in a prison. They're free to walk and roam. They're free to drive their car. They're free to go wherever they want, but they're living in a prison. They go home, and it's the same stuff over and over and over. And what happens then is depression sets in. Sadness sets in. Things set in on them that we have a chance to break off of them. Just by, as Rick said, just as a smile. Just doing it. We have just 13 days. In 13 days, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And we all know he wasn't really born on December 25th, but we celebrated that day. As I said earlier, it was the door that opened up a season of opportunity which we live in today. Mark chapter 14, verses 23 to 26 out of the Passion says this. As they ate, Jesus took the bread and blessed it and tore it and gave it to the disciples and said to them, receive this, this is my body. And then taking a cup of wine, giving praises and to the Father, he declared the new covenant with them. And as each drank from the cup, it was a new covenant, a new opportunity, a new beginning. You know, every week, every month, Gail does a covenant teaching. Always good. But it's more than just that act that we do. But every time we take that cup, every time we take that bread, he says, you're remembering me. You're being reminded of me. We're taking on that covenant once again. We're going to say we're going to walk in that covenant stronger than ever before. That's what should be our heart. That's what should be our goal. He goes on to say, in a covenant, if we subscribe to it, every time we take that communion, we should be taking ourselves to the next level, to the next new beginning in our lives. It should challenge us in this season of opportunity that we have. Now, I understand all of this, and I include, when I say this has worked on me all week. So I get it preached at me first. It doesn't matter when I put it on paper, which last night was about 11 o'clock. But it still worked on me all week. So I'm not preaching at you, I'm preaching to us. We have to step into a new beginning, beloved. We have been given such a blessing. I mean, am I the only one that walks in this building and every time I walk in, I'm amazed? Every time I look around, I see the blessings of God all around me. You and this property. I drive by, Pastor Jim says every road goes through Groveland. And so I think he's right. We try to take every road a different way and go right here by the church. The thing is, beloved, I want to come by. I want to see the blessing that God, I want to remind myself every day the blessing that God has brought upon you and I. As I said last week, there are opportunities for success. One of the things. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 14 says this, and you will find true success when you find me. You know, I remember when I got out of the Army, and I went into, it was my first job ever as an adult, and I went into the insurance business. And I was hungry after success. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to touch lives. I wanted to make a difference wherever I went. And I worked hard at it. And there was 25 agents in the office that I was in. And I started at the end of March, middle of March, 1976. And I just put it to work. I just worked hard. By the end of that year, in about 9 months, I went from number 25 to number 5. I went from a brand new beginner I was seeking success so rapidly that I just missed what they called their trip every year, was to the Bahamas. Debbie, we've been to the Bahamas several times now. I finally got her there. The thing is that I missed it by a few cents of increase. If I'd worked just a little bit harder, I could have had that success. I could have had that green coat that year. But success that's not success that I'm talking about. What the words say, you will find true success when you find me. Living a successful life, realizing that God has a way and a plan for us in everything that we do. All we've got to do is see the opportunities. He goes on to say this, for I have insight into the wise plans that are designated for you, just for you. I hold my hands, living understanding, courage and strength. They're all ready and waiting for you. Everything you have need of to be successful is all waiting for us. We just got to pick it up and take it out the door. We got to leave behind what we're leaving behind today and pick up a new beginning. It's the end of a year, beginning of a new one coming upon us. It's time for us to lay aside the struggles, lay aside the anguish, lay aside the pain, lay aside all that stuff, and walk out the door to a new beginning. It's an opportunity for a future, beloved. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11 through 14 says this, for I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. A future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you, says the Lord, and I will bring you back from your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord, and I will bring you to a place from which I cause you to be carried away into captivity. He says, look, I'm going to take you out of that mess. But you got to have faith. You got to trust. You got to have hope. You got to look at the fact that God has a future plan for you. Been doing this for a long time. Pastor many churches in these years. I've never enjoyed one as much as I enjoyed this pastorate, as this church. The thing is that I saw this. I look backwards now and I can see where God took me to get here. Do you ever do that? You look back at your life? I mean, I'm at 10 years old. I cried out to a God I didn't know in a closet. It's the only private place I had in the house, actually. Because I shared a room with my brother till we were like 35 or something like that. I don't remember. But I had this closet, and I'm not going to go into it all because I think I've said it before. The thing is that I went in there and I cried out to God and wept. It wasn't long after that. It was maybe, I don't know how much time frame it was, but it wasn't long after that I saw that angel standing over my bed in the middle of the night. And that scared me. I'll be honest with you. I woke up, and the angel standing there, and I put the covers over my head. I didn't know who it was. I put it back down, it was gone. Several years later, after I'd gotten saved, I was over here what used to be called the Jesus Barn. I was at a John Michael Calvin concert, and I'm sitting at the back, and we're in worship, and I've got my eyes closed, and all of a sudden and I saw the angels in the room. Now, I don't tell a lot of those stories. I should probably. When you have a testimony of what God's given you, what He's seen, shown you, tell people around you. Let them know. I died in Ghana. We fought telling that for years. God said, why are you not telling the testimony? Why are you not telling people about what I did in your life in Ghana? He said, I've got a future and a hope for you. He's got a future and a hope for all of us. That's what it says in Jeremiah. I know he was talking to Jeremiah. You know he was talking to Jeremiah. But he was talking to us too. Because the word is personal. But there's an opportunity for growth. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 16 says this, For his body has been formed in his image and is closely joined together and constantly connected as one. And every member has been given divine gifts to contribute to the growth of all. Vince has gifts that I don't have, that I need him present for me to obtain from. Jeff has gifts that I don't have, but I need his gifts to make me stronger in my walk with God. The thing is, beloved, not all of us are going to preach, not all of us are going to teach, although this room is full of teachers and preachers. The thing is that our call is to strengthen one another. He says, they're joined together, consistently connected to one another, that every member given divine gifts can contribute to the growth of all. And these gifts operate effectively through the whole body. We are built up and made perfect in love. As we love one another, as we come in this place, we walk out strengthened for tomorrow, for the rest of the day. What you left of the tree today is chipping away at the things the enemy is trying to put in your life. Trying to keep you from doing what you're supposed to do. Keep you from being who God sees you as. Remember that. God sees you different than you see yourself. I know when I walk to a mirror lately, I'm sort of taken aback. I mean, I've been growing this hair pretty much all year long. Beard not quite as long, but I haven't had either one of them cut for a while. And every time I turn around, Debbie's going, "You going to cut that stuff off?" I showed her a picture yesterday on the way back. The guy's beard was down to here, real high. I said, "That's me in 18 months."
Was he by himself?
Pretty much. But I mean, even before that, I mean, we see ourselves in our eyes, in ourselves. We don't see ourselves of how we really look. But God sees us. We don't even see us as He sees us. A lot of us don't see ourselves as the conquerors that we are, as the victors that we are, as the warriors that we are. A lot of us don't see ourselves there. We get it going, and we're in the middle of all the tediousness of life, breaking us down, wearing us out. That's where the group comes back in and says, "You know what? Hey, it's okay. I'm with you. I got you. We're together on this. We stand together." That's what covenant is about. Covenant is about us standing together, connected. No matter where Aaron's at, he should know that he could call any one of us because of covenant, and we're right there with him. What covenant doesn't do, it doesn't bring discouragement to one another. "Oh, Aaron, you should be able to be tougher than that. What's wrong with you? You need to..." No. Covenant says, "I'm here, man. I'm with you. I'll stand with you. I'll be with you." Covenant is most evident usually. Well, I'll tell you one of the most evident places in covenant is in the military and motorcycle gangs. Motorcycle guys know what covenant means. They may not express it as covenant, but they know what covenant means. They understand covenant. Military understands covenant. But beloved, it's the church that should understand it more than anybody. But it's not taught enough. Covenant is important. We don't covet each other. Rick and I have been friends a long time. We're covenant brothers. We've been together a long time, 40 years, pretty much. We were both young, both had little kids at the time. I can remember when Rick started going gray before he got gray in hair, he had a gray mustache. He shaved it off. He said, "I want to look old." Well, look at him now. He looks old. Oh, did I say that out loud? But we can pick at one another, and we do. We have over the years. Why? Because we know deep down in we're covenant. We're not attacking each other. Now, there was a couple of times when he was first divorced and starting to date, I'm thinking, "Give me a ball bat," because he's on the phone. He said, "Well, I bought a ring." He bought her a ring. Obviously, it wasn't Cindy. It was some other girl that he just head over heels in. But the only time I was going to knock him out. The thing is I was concerned about his welfare. Why? Because that's what covenant brothers do. That's what covenant people do. We don't attack one another. We stand with one another, but we also challenge one another. How you take that challenge is up to you. You can take it and get offended. You can take it and get defensive. Or you can take the challenge and say, "Well, maybe I need to fix that." And he did. Thank God he did. The thing is that covenant takes us to areas that that nothing else can. The next thing was opportunities of mysteries, understanding the mysteries. Luke chapter 8, verse 9 through 10 says this. Later, his disciples came to Jesus and asked him privately what deeper meaning was found in this parable. Now, he had just taught them a parable. He said to them, you have been given a teachable heart to perceive the secret hidden mysteries of God's kingdom's realm. God's kingdom's realm. You and I have been given the blessing of understanding the mysteries. There are people that read this Bible every day and don't understand any bit of it. And when we started out, we didn't understand it. But the mysteries have been laid out for us. We've been given opportunity to understand mysteries. We've been given the opportunity to give of ourselves. Probably the best thing we do in covenant nature is to give of ourselves. Luke chapter 9, verses 23 through 25 says this. Jesus said to all of his followers, if you truly desire to be my disciple, you must disown your life completely. Whoa, wait a minute. Pastor Jim just sold both of his motorcycles this week. That Harley that I had sold to him, the cavalcade that he dearly loved, he sold them. And he did. He said, I'm not quit riding. He says, but I want to go deeper in God. And he says, God, what will it take for me to get deeper in? God says you have to give a precious seed. When I sold my Harley to him, that was what it wanted. I was after more of God. And it was precious seed. I didn't miss it once I sowed it. It was God's. It was God's property anyway. And that's another reason why I try to be debt-free, is because you don't own this stuff. There's nothing I have that doesn't belong to God. Now, if I have the bank involved with it, then there's a problem. I got a third party involved in it, something that's me and God's. It's hard to do those things. There's a day coming where I'll sow my house. There's a day I sow about everything. The hardest thing for me to sow is books, but I do it all the time. The thing is you truly desire to be my disciple and disown your life completely and embrace my cross as your own and surrender to my ways. Are you willing to do that today? Because see, that's what you did to a degree when you put that in the tree. I'm surrendering that. I'm surrendering that issue to you, God. I'm going to walk away and it's no longer mine. I have no longer claim of it. I am walking away and I'm trusting you now to take care of what that problem was, because it's not mine anymore. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm completed with it. For if you choose self-sacrifice, giving up your lives for my glory, you will embark on a discovery more and more of the true life. But if you choose to keep your lives for yourself, you will lose what you're trying to keep. We have to give ourselves up totally to the King. Totally. We have an opportunity. We live in a season of opportunity. Verse 25 says this. Even if you've gained all the wealth and power of the world, everything it could offer you, yet you lose your soul in the process, what good is that? King James says something along this. What good does it have for a man to gain the whole world and lose his life? See that all the time. You and I have an opportunity to see life differently than anybody else. You and I have an opportunity to visualize the future for everybody around us. So I challenge you this week, the week leading into Christmas, I challenge you this, is that, 2 weeks leading into Christmas, I challenge you this, is that you see, when you go out, and when you're out and about, whether you're at work, and you're at the bakery, Dina, and customer comes in, or Rick, you're just out running errands for the family, and you're just out seeing people, or Heidi, when you're out there and you're at work, you're doing this, I want you to take note of what you're seeing for the first time like never before. I'm not saying you don't see things. I'm not saying you're not aware of them. I want you to look at them differently. We've been given a seasoned opportunity to share the love of Christ with the world. But I'm not talking about Ghana. I'm not talking about Belgium. I'm not talking about France. I'm talking about the world in which we live. We've been given an opportunity to express the love of God to everybody. We live in a season greater than any other because we understand the mysteries of the kingdom and we have the opportunity to do what we need to do. So during this Christmas season, kick it off. Get it started. You're leaving the bad behind. Whatever it was holding you back. You're no longer bound by that. Now you look at life differently than you've ever done before. That's what Mary had to do. She had to trust that angel and look at her life differently than what she had planned. I'm a planner. I keep a calendar. If I don't keep a calendar, Debbie says I get lost. And she's probably right, because I've kept a calendar pretty much all my life, business life and things. So I write in my calendar, this is going to be at this time. Well, there's some days I don't accomplish what I put in my calendar. Now I can have a choice. I can say that's a failed day, or I can say, well, I'm going to do better tomorrow. So you decide, you walk out of your day and say, well, tomorrow I'm going to start off my day of prayer. I'm going to start off my day with prayer, reading the Word, and you get up in the morning and you're running late. Oh, man, and you got to get to work. And you don't get to do that. Now, the enemy will come in and try to take you out. He'll come in and say, well, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. The one that is, what's the word I want? I can see it, I can't think of it. It's not condemner. The condemnation is not coming from God. Thank you. That's the enemy that's trying to condemn you. And when you feel that you've let God down, God's not doing that. You just get back up the next day and do it anyway. You start all over. You can put in your calendar, you can make a mistake, but God says, don't worry about it. I'm here. You can do it later in the day. You catch yourself later in the day. Say, I didn't do it this morning. Well, do it there. Catch yourself then. It should be a day of prayer anyway. It should be a day of understanding, getting a chance to look at the Word. And every one of you have the Bible on your phone probably. So just hit the U version Bible. It gives you that verse that day. And read that one if you haven't read anything else today. I'm challenging you to look at life differently from this day forward. You've laid the bad behind. If you haven't yet, then I challenge you to do that. And get up and walk fresh and new. The trees are a good illustration, thank you, Gail, because the trees are a good illustration that there's brokenness in trees. But God heals brokenness. He takes care of us that are broken. Amen? Next Sunday, we're going to start off in here. We'll have some Christmas music to sing, and along with, we'll have the kids do what they're doing. We'll move to the back. Please come and bring something with you that you can share as a gift to the body. I challenge this every year, but do it. Something you can give to the body, something maybe